Hey guys, welcome back.
Welcome back to Inspired Delusions.
How have you guys been feeling lately? Have you been feeling delusional
Hopefully.
and grateful?
Grateful, delusional, life is good. Visualizing yourself winning. I was doing that the other day, I think 12-12 portal. Hopefully you guys use that 12-12 energy to manifest your wildest dreams. But yeah, I was getting really delusional. I was like crying. Because I was like so grateful from all my delusional manifestations coming into fruition. I could really feel it.
Yeah, I think I need to step up on
Yeah.
my delusion because Olivia told me for this podcast she was visualizing it being top 10 Spotify podcasts.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, dang, I guess my delusions aren't big enough. I need to
Yeah.
get a little crazier, which was a great reminder because even if a tenth of that happened, we would be over the moon,
Yeah.
overjoyed.
Yeah, even though more than a tenth is happening. But yeah.
Period.
Yeah, 100% is happening, but yes.
So today we wanted to talk to you guys about best case scenario.
Yeah, this is something that really, really, really got me started on this manifesting, glow up, healing journey. I got a tattoo literally about this exact topic of like, in every situation, basically summarizing, in every situation, you can either focus on the worst case scenario, which a lot of people do. We're kind of in this habit of being like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, I need to think about the worst case so then I'm not disappointed, like da da da. Or you can force yourself to focus on the best case scenario because either one is just as likely to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely a 50-50% chance of it happening. The reason why we want to hold back or think about the worst case scenario is, again, to protect us.
Yeah.
Because we're like, okay, well, what if that really bad thing does happen? I just want to get ahead of it. So I already feel these feelings.
Yeah.
They feel normal to me so that when it does really happen, it's not that upsetting.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a protection, a little survival mechanism that we use, but we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's fun to get your hopes up.
Yeah.
It is okay to get your hopes up. It's also okay to be disappointed.
Yeah,
like
true.
it's not the end of the world if what you didn't want to happen happens.
Yeah.
And just riding through that wave of emotions and then getting back up and being like, okay, well, the next time surely it can't happen again.
Yeah.
Type of energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, give yourself grace if you try to protect yourself, but just know that you don't have to, and you can get excited about scenarios, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, and back to being disappointed. So a lot of times if you are wanting something, you're focusing on the best case, like you're really letting yourself get your hopes up, and then you end up not getting it, and you have this feeling of being disappointed. A lot of times, even being disappointed is just our ego thinking that we knew what the best case would be, or thinking that we knew what would make us happy or whatever. But the universe could actually be giving you or preparing you for something even better.
Even better.
So
totally.
also just keeping that in mind too. Because we think we know what's going to make us happy. But when we are going for that, and when we're letting ourselves get our hopes up and hoping for the best case scenario, the universe is seeing you put in that positive vibrational action, seeing you demand and expect really good things. And no matter what, I think at the end of the day, no matter what, you're still moving in a good direction, even if you end up not getting exactly what you want.
Totally. And I have an example in my head of a time. It was honestly a whole year's worth of disappointment after disappointment after disappointment for myself, that once finally I was just kind of like, well, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe I've been holding this image of what I thought I wanted to happen was the best case scenario. And so I kind of leaned into okay, well, I'm just not on that route anymore.
Yeah.
And the second I did that, everything quickly changed, and my whole life changed based off that year. The past 5 years have changed for the better based off that 1 year not going the way I wanted it to be. And now I think back, what if that thing that I had wanted at that time did happen? I would be in a completely different spot right now.
Oh my God, yeah.
And when I say that year, I was so down bad. I don't know what depression feels like, or just feeling so to your core stuck and sick. But I feel like that was pretty close feeling. And so really settling into the notion of, okay, I guess that's not what's happening. Let me just go with the flow. Let me see where this other road takes me. And it could just get infinitely better. You'd never know. Your brain can only think of so many scenarios. Your brain gets so easily stuck on what you want that it can't see beyond that.
Yeah, totally.
So just really falling into the unknown, essentially.
And falling into like everything happens for you.
Right.
Because even in that year where you really, really wanted something and you weren't getting it, I think, right? You weren't getting it. The universe of like a higher, a bigger picture, the universe was probably looking at you like, babe, I promise I got you. Just trust me. Just trust me. Just trust me. And that made me think of another example in college. Like my senior year in college, I had the biggest crush on this boy. And I was like, okay, no, he's for sure the one. Like he has to be the one. Like I'm so obsessed with him. And looking back, like, you know, a couple years later, I ended up looking back at that and being like, thank God. Thank literally God that we did not end up dating, because I probably would still be in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Like not really, probably not living my best life, you know, not going through all the experiences that have gotten me here. So just keeping that in mind too, of really realizing that let yourself get your hopes up, let yourself focus on the best case scenario, because that makes you feel good right now. And even if you don't get that, also leaning into that and being like, okay, well, the universe has something even better for me, or like the universe has a better plan for me. And doing whatever you need to do to feel good, essentially, at the end of the day.
Expect the thing that you want to happen is going to happen and sit in that energy. And then also know that it's okay if it doesn't. You're just getting redirected, right? Rejection is redirection.
Yeah, totally. And we're going to talk about just being lucky on this podcast too. And that kind of, this topic goes with being lucky, right? Because if you believe that you're lucky and you just decide, hey, okay, you know what? I'm actually really lucky, and just decide that, then you realize, okay, either one, you're going to get exactly what you want. Cool. You're letting yourself get your hopes up. Two, even if you don't get what you want, you're still lucky. So it's like, okay, well, this is happening for a reason. Something better is coming. Like the universe is obsessed with me. Like nothing could happen that is bad for me, essentially. Like if you really believe that at your core, then no matter what's happening around you, your perspective will change, and think of it as like positive. And again, at the end of the day, everything that we talk about, everything that I think is like the point of life is really just to feel good, most of the time. Like we're human. We're going to feel like sad sometimes. We're going to have bad days sometimes. But really at the end of the day, it's all about like just feeling good. And so whatever you have to believe to make yourself feel good, believe that.
Yeah. We were talking a few episodes back about like the lucky girl syndrome. Or like we saw that TikTok of the girl being like, me and my best friend are the luckiest girls in the world. And so of course we were like, well, we need to start saying that anyways. But I feel like we both always have been lucky or have felt lucky. But this reminds me of the research study. I think his name's like Dr. Wiseman, but he did like the newspaper experiment.
Yeah.
Which essentially he took a group of people and he was like, do you feel lucky? Yes or no? And some people said yes. And then half the group said no. And then he told them to count, was it pictures? Like count the pictures throughout the newspaper. And then at the end, we'll give you $100 if you get the number correct.
Yeah.
And every single one of the people who said I felt lucky ended up in the newspaper seeing he wrote like 2 hidden messages that was essentially like stop counting here, there's 42 images in the newspaper. Or another one that was stop counting here, let them know that you read this sentence
and you win the $100.
And you win the $100. Right? And then every single person who said that they didn't feel lucky, that they were unlucky, counted all the pictures from front to back and wasted the time, basically.
Yeah, they didn't see the cheat codes, essentially.
Right.
Like the people who claimed that they were unlucky didn't see the cheat codes, and the people who claimed that they were lucky and said that they were lucky saw the cheat codes. Right? So it's like that's such a good example of people like, if you don't believe you're lucky, if you think bad things happen to you, whatever, you're quite literally not going to see good things if they're right in front of you. Like everyone saw the same thing. Everyone saw the same newspaper. Everyone, like even the unlucky people had the newspaper that basically had those 2 options of like letting them win.
Right.
But they didn't see it. Like their brain wasn't looking for opportunities to be lucky, if that kind of makes sense.
That makes so much sense because whatever you think or believe, that's what you go out and you look for. We always say that, right? Your brain is always looking for proof for whatever you're thinking.
Yep. If you believe that you're unlucky, your brain is going to be like, okay, heard. Let me show you and give you examples of you being unlucky, like literally. And then if you think you're lucky, if you think you're blessed, if you think the universe loves you, then you are going to see opportunities that prove you right. Like I just had a TikTok that went viral, which was talking about the idea of like you only see what you're looking for. So if you believe that you're lucky, then you're going to be looking for that. And then you're going to see it because that's what you're looking for. So our brains are so powerful. Like our brains are so powerful. And you just mentioned like we've both been lucky. And I would argue now I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I was lucky. But for a long time, I didn't feel lucky, if that made sense. Like I would look at my life and be like, okay, well, I'm not really lucky. Like there's nothing special about me. Like I need to work really hard. Like I need to, like I'm not favored by the universe. I didn't really believe that for a long time. But then as I've gone on this journey and as I've literally brainwashed myself into believing that I'm lucky, that's when I start looking back and be like, wait, I am lucky. Like I am a lucky person. So just kind of saying like, if you don't think that you're a lucky person, you can rewire your brain to make you believe that you're a lucky person.
Yeah, you could start at any time.
Yeah, totally. And then you can look, and then I promise you'll like look back at your life and be like,
start to see things.
Yeah, and you'll start to be like, wait, actually that was lucky. Oh wait, that was lucky. And you kind of just reframe everything that you've gone through into being like, wait, okay, that actually did happen for me instead of to me.
Right. I think one of the earliest memories I have of like me, like whether it was manifesting or whether it was luck or law of assumption, but I remember specifically I was 9 years old and I was in 5th grade and our school did DARE. Did you have like DARE?
Yeah, like the drug.
Yeah. And so one day we had this assignment. It was the final assignment of that course where we had to like, write a letter. And I can't exactly remember if it was like to our future self or what, but it was a statement on not doing drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Right. And I didn't do the assignment. Yeah, I didn't do the assignment. And then the next day I went to school. I was like, I'm going to get in trouble. I need to do this homework assignment. So I wrote out my entire letter or essay. And then I took it to class, whatever. I remember being like, yeah, like that was really good. Like I did a really good job. And I did that so fast. I did it only in that, hour before school.
Yeah.
And I got selected. I won the essay out of the entire 5th grade class. And then my letter went to state. I remember the girl who got second place. And this girl was so smart, like super smart, always like won things. And she came up to me and asked me, she's like, how did you win that? Like, how did you do that? And I remember just being like, I don't know. I just felt like I was going to. Like, I just knew I was going to. And I said that at 9 years old. And ever since then, I swear the most random things have happened to me that have been so good throughout my like childhood and now into my adulthood. But I always remember that story. And that kind of just goes into like law of assumption and literally. Like manifesting. It all connects, right? Yes. Everything it all comes down to whatever you believe is what's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's kind of goes to all of these forces and laws and law of attraction, law of assumption. All of them are always working whether you know about it or not.
Right. Exactly.
Like, so that's an example. You weren't trying to like use the law of assumption, for example, but you were just using it and it was working.
Right.
So yeah. And if you're assuming everything's always working out for you, then that's what's going to happen. If you're assuming everything's not working out for you, then that's what's going to happen too. That's a good one. Okay. So focusing on the best case scenario versus focusing on the worst case. I also try every now and then, actually very often, to like learn about quantum physics and like the quantum
She's a
things.
Woman in STEM.
I try to be a woman in STEM, really. And it kind of, I don't know if I'm going to explain this right. I don't even know if I'm going to explain this like truthfully. So take this all with a grain of salt. But this is how I think about it in my mind. Quantum physics really is actually proving that observing, like our consciousness and our observation of something affects it.
Right.
Like there was the double slit experiment, which you can look into. But essentially, like if the scientists were looking and observing this experiment of these electrons, then they would act a certain way. They would act what we would think that it would normally act.
Yeah.
And then if they weren't looking at it, if they weren't observing it, then they would act as waves essentially. So I don't know if that is going to make sense, but if you look into it, it's basically just saying that these particles were acting a certain way when being observed, and they were acting a different way when they weren't being observed. So it's kind of just showing that our consciousness and our focus and our like observation actually affects things and affects reality. So I think about it of like, okay, if you're focusing on the best case scenario and you're focusing on the reality that you actually want and, you know, visualizing like everything that you're wanting, you actually are like affecting the quantum field essentially. Like you're drawing that to you, you're creating that. So it kind of goes like focusing on the best case scenario kind of goes with the idea of like what you focus on expands. Because if you're focusing on all of the good things in your life and focusing on all the things you want and visualizing the best case and visualizing all your manifestations, that's going to expand and be drawn into your life. And that's the same with if you're focusing on all the horrible things in your life, if you're complaining all the time, if you're focusing on all the negative things, that's going to continue to expand too. Does that kind of make sense?
That makes so much sense.
Okay,
because
cool.
ultimately everything is like just energy, right? And
Yeah.
it wants to come together. It wants to do more of that. So the more good you're going to get. The more bad you're going to get.
Yeah.
Whatever vibration that you put out there, that is what you're going to receive. That's what you're going to look for. That's what's going to get you excited.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And you can always switch mid-sentence, mid-thought. If you're thinking something spooky, shut that down, and then say something positive over it.
Redirect. I do that all the time. I feel like now I'm a lot better at it than when I started. But when I started, it's always just redirecting. If you start thinking about the worst case scenario, if you start going down the spiral, it's just about redirecting. Redirect. Like even if you have to redirect 1,000 times in a day, just trying to go back to the positive side of things, or trying to, you know, force yourself to think about you winning, think about the best case. Like it really is redirecting, and it might feel uncomfortable at first. It might feel like you have to do that all the time at first, but then I promise if you really are focusing on all of the amazing things, seeing yourself winning, focusing on the best case scenario, it gets easier and easier because then you start getting more and more used to it.
Yeah. And also it's okay to take a step back. You know, like if you cannot escape those thoughts, if it's just so negative and you're trying to redirect and it's not working, go to sleep. Like,
yeah.
You know, or like, I don't know. Have you guys heard like door frames being portals where it's you walk through something and you're like, okay, when I step into this next area, that no longer happens.
Yeah.
I always do that with sleep. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sleep tonight. And when I wake up, it's a portal into a new energy. And that's no longer going to be an issue. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, that works. Just putting it down and being like, I'm done. If it's like a really big, heavy thing, if it's not something you're easily able to like snap into positive thoughts in that moment, you can take a step back. But Abraham Hicks always says all is well. And I love saying that. I say that when I wake up. I say that when I go to sleep. I say that to you. I say that with my mom. I'd say it to my coworkers at work now because that's what I want to happen. And then that does happen.
Totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we say that all the time. I love all as well. Like if I'm ever like stressed about something or worried or whatever, I really do use all as well. And it's I feel like mantra. It really helps.
I kind of had a funny interaction, but one of my coworkers the other day was upset with like a visitor, and I kind of stepped in because I had watched the entire interaction and it really was just all a big communication. And so I said something to my coworker, and my coworker kind of turned that anger onto me, had a couple words with me, whatever. She's such a lovely person, such a lovely nurse. It was a hard, long day, whatever. And it was cool. I walked away, and then like 30 minutes later, I noticed I was like kind of walking with like my shoulders shrugged up to my ears and a frown on my face. And I was just like, felt kind of angry. And I had to stop and be like, wait, what? I'm not angry. Like that wasn't my energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this energy like transmutation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where you like, you know, take on somebody else's energy.
Yeah, totally.
And I kind of giggled because I was like, wait, I'm not angry. I've had a great shift. Like today's been amazing. Like that wasn't me, that was her. And so I was explaining that to Olivia, but I was laughing, and I don't know, but like I had like my eyebrows like this, and I was just like, what is that? And I was like touching my face. I was like, why am I so angry?
Like you caught yourself. Like,
I caught my
scrunching up or frowning. Basically, you caught yourself frowning, being like, wait, what
exactly. But I had to laugh because I was like, that's real. Like you have to kind of watch out for other people's energies and check in with your own.
Yeah.
And because I was like totally fine, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I laughed at that, and I'm glad I picked it up because I feel like I could have definitely taken that weird energy and moved the rest of my shift a certain way. It's very easy to do that.
Yeah, totally. Being aware, like just being aware of like what's happening, or even if you, being aware of if you ever feel like maybe negative energy or feeling angry or feeling like feeling off, just being like, wait, what's happening right now?
Right.
Like, and then for you, for example, you like noticed it and you're like, you shook it off, and then you're like, okay, this doesn't need to affect me anymore. Like, I'm letting that go, and you were good after you kind of shook it off.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny that I caught that, because I was really like, wait, what's going on here? Surely this can't be my anger.
Yeah. That's funny.
Also, going back to what you focus on expands, and kind of giving energy to that honestly reminds me of like the TikTok algorithm, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what life is. If you are seeing something, liking it, sharing it, reposting
commenting on it,
right, and you're interacting with it, and then you continue to get more and more and more of that, that's exactly what's happening in your real world.
I'm so glad you brought that example up. Such a beautiful example.
It is.
Like, that's literally, if y'all have not heard that analogy before, I'm sure you just got your mind blown, because that's so accurate. Like, on TikTok, I don't know if you have TikTok, you know, if you like a TikTok, or if you watch a whole TikTok through,
if you just watch it,
if you just watch a TikTok all the way through, or just for the most of it, you like, the TikTok algorithm knows to give you a very similar video next, right? To keep you engaged, to keep you watching. Like, it's trying to just show you what is you gonna like, what you like you there, or not even what you like, but what you're gonna keep watching, right? That's also goes for like, if you're seeing a bunch of stuff you don't like and you're still watching it, right, and engaging in it and commenting like, fuck you, I hate this stuff, and then the TikTok algorithm's gonna be like, wait, no, she's like interacting, she likes with that, yeah, so it's gonna give you more. So that is 1000% how the universe works, and how this reality works too, of like, whatever you are giving energy to, whatever you're focusing on, whatever you're interacting with, is being, you're going to get more of that, whatever you are giving your energy to.
Yeah, I feel like I sometimes, I like TikTok drama. I like seeing what the celebrities are up to, and I like watching those videos. But now recently, I feel like I've been like kind of stopping myself mid video, or like only a couple seconds in, and being like, do I actually, how is this helping me? How does this better myself? Or yeah, I don't know. That's like a big change for me, because I get entertainment off that, but I'm like, why is that fueling me?
Yeah, why are you giving your energy to it?
Why am I giving my energy to that? Attention. Why am I paying with that?
Paying attention.
Oh my gosh, paying attention. Yeah. Should we talk about that?
Yeah.
So when you pay attention to something, you are paying it with your energy.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about, especially now, I feel like probably always, but especially now, whatever you are watching is that's valuable. Like, our attention is actually valuable. Yeah, that's a really great example. Yeah, really, really great. And just think about that. That's how the universe works.
That is how the universe works, which is so cool, because that just means the universe is so loyal to you, and you get to choose what you want to see, what you want to engage with, what you yourself want to be like, how you want to act, how you think, feel, all of that. So that's super cool.
And it's cool because you get to decide what you are going to continue creating, and what's going to be in your life ultimately. Like, your actions now are, and what you're focusing on now is going to be, that is affecting what's going to be drawn into your life next.
Totally.
At the end of the day. So it is cool, because you are in charge.
We are lucky. Yeah. And we can control any situation we want. Yes. And we just have to go out and find the good things. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to not let the fear of the disappointment, the fear of the our ego, or the fear of judgment stop us from getting excited about getting something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, basically, if you decide that you're lucky, your life will start being more lucky. Oh, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I feel like it goes with this, of Albert Einstein's quote, which is, the most important decision you can ever make is deciding if the universe is hostile or friendly. I might have butchered that a little bit, but it's something like that. He is basically saying that you get to decide if you believe that this universe is hostile or if it's friendly. And I totally agree with that, because I mean, for me, I'm like, of course this universe is friendly. Of course, like, everything at the end of the day comes back to love. Like, of course the universe wants the best for everyone. And I choose to believe that. And it makes me happy. Like, if I were to just think that there's no point in everything, or everything's coming from a bad place or whatever, that doesn't make me feel good at all.
You had said this so beautifully on one of our earlier episodes, where you're like, otherwise there wouldn't be like babies laughing, or, you know, puppies running around, or waterfalls, or rainbows, or all these like beautiful things that we have here. And that is so true. Or even just like the connection, like we were talking about this the other day, of if we put on a song and we both feel that energy.
Yeah.
Or like, who's that guy, like Flawed Mango on TikTok?
Yeah.
And everyone, like, whenever they hear his little guitar riff, like instantly just feel like the same, like, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And so we wouldn't have all these things if it wasn't meant to be a heaven on earth.
Yeah, totally.
So definitely I like that Albert Einstein says that, because it really is your choice, because some people live the same lives as us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like with the same privileges as us, right? Our coworkers, are those in our community are living the same life as us, and they still choose to see the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to know that at any point in time we can decide to see the good.
Yeah.
And decide to see the luck and choose to be lucky and to live lives where we are lucky.
Yeah, 1000%. There's so many things to be grateful for. There's so many instances in every person's life of realizing that they're lucky, and a lot of times many people just go about their lives like taking that for granted or like not recognizing it. And it's about training your brain to recognize it. It's about training your brain to like have the knowing or have the faith that everything's working out for you, whether it is or not. Honestly, at the end of the day, whether it is or not, if you believe it is, then it is. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to raise your vibration. It's going to give you hope. Like there's studies that hope is actually super, super powerful, and it can help people get through horrible times, like just having hope. And yeah, I mean, it really, really, really is about making that decision.
Yeah. Do you know what's actually so funny, which I'm kind of going through right now, is Olivia, when we used to meet people, they would always be like, oh, what do you do for work? And I would always be like, oh, I'm a nurse. And then Olivia would try to say her day job, and I'd be like, oh yeah, and like she's actually a coach. And I would introduce Olivia like that, because I'd be like, Liv, if that's what you are, or that's what you're trying to be, then that's what you need to say it. And Liv would always be like, okay, yeah, you're so right, but like it feels like a little uncomfortable at first. This was like a year and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
And so now I feel like I'm kind of in that position, because people are like, oh, what do you do? And I still answer the same for Liv. But for me, I'm like trying to put myself in a position to be like, oh, like I do a podcast.
Yeah.
Right. And being more comfortable with that, because it's like, if that's what it is and that's what I like and that's what I want to be recognized for, then I just have to put myself out there and just push past that uncomfortable feeling or push past that imposter syndrome, right? And I just think it's super funny because it's full circle. And it's like, if I could have hyped you up like that, I need to hype myself up like that.
Totally.
And so I'm like, well, what's the hold back on saying I have a podcast, I do a podcast for work, right? Is it shame? Is it feeling like we're not big enough? What's holding me back? And then just really switching that and focusing on the positive, because I mean, I don't know who I could be introducing myself to. I don't know who I could meet tomorrow. I don't know what one viral TikTok might launch this podcast, right? And if I really believe that that's what I am, then I need to move like that. Yeah. And so I just bring this all back to say, you are lucky. You are what you believe in. You see and you get whatever's in your mind. So why not put the best thing out there?
Yeah, you are lucky if you decide you're lucky.
Right.
At the end of the day. So decide that you're lucky. This is your homework for this week, is if you didn't already, because hopefully if you've been listening to this podcast, you already feel delusional and lucky and know everything's going out and working out for you. Yep. But if you haven't done that yet, this is your requirement to start now. And I always say, like, just try something. I was talking to my client about this today. I'm like, just try, going all in, hoping for the best case scenario, like working on healing yourself. Just try it and see what happens. Like if you try it and everything goes horribly wrong, then fine, whatever, you can stop. But I promise it's not going to go horribly wrong. I promise you're going to keep being surprised and keep being realizing that this stuff works, and realizing that you can create your own reality, and realize that you can actually feel really good. Like, I promise, because I know this stuff works. So that's just your reminder. Just try it. Try claiming that you're lucky. Try asking your brain, like, okay, show me where I'm lucky. Asking the universe, asking God, and see what happens.
Yeah.
So we love you.
We do love you guys, and we will see you guys next week.
Yes. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.